Welcome to it, sports fans. I just want to say, Test cricket is back. That's what I really care about. We can actually end the show here so I can go and watch the rest of the cricket. Loving it. West Indies are back. My goodness. Everyone in their team looks 6'8" and ready to go. Look like that could all be on a cover shoot. West Indies look fit. They're under the guidance of Mr. Simons, absolute legend, part of that legendary 80s, 90s West Indian team. So looking forward to seeing that. So welcome to it. Thursday, got a great guest, somebody who I hope will become a friend of the show long-term, Ben Karpinski in the house. Got plenty to talk out of FC this weekend and much, much more. But before that, I am not alone. I am with Woude Muller. Woude, how are you doing today?
Yes, no, I'm good. I actually had an interesting day because I got quite an interesting message from a random person that follows me on Instagram. I posted this picture about being in Greece 3 years ago, and I went swimming in my dress because I didn't have my costume with me and we wanted to swim to this cave. And as you know, I'm quite a good swimmer, so it was no problem. A person commented like, "You look really cool. Can I ask you, what personality type are you?" Like that Myers-Briggs personality type. It's like, why? Why do you ask someone a question like that?
Oh, man. Well, how self-aware are you? What did you say?
Well, I think I'm, what's it, the TJ or something, I think. Obviously, I'm not very sure. But I didn't answer this person, but I think that's a personality type that I am. ENTJ, isn't there one like that?
I don't know. I just know good and bad. Okay, but ENTJ it is. It's fine. Let's go with it. I don't know anything.
You've got 16 different personality types. I'm going to send you the link and you better do it.
Okay, well, Sigmund Freud said we have 6, but okay, 16 it is. Why not? Let's throw it out there. Live a little, hey? A little bipolar. Throw it into the mix. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
Random messages
Admirers
from random
online.
people that follow me on Instagram. I think it's quite interesting. Keep them coming. I like these messages.
Awesome. All right. Woude and the people online. Love it. Woude, let's have a great show. Let us get straight into it. The return of Test cricket, of course, England playing West Indies. We're going to talk a little bit today about Steyn versus Anderson. And then, of course, Woude will talk about some of the interesting news, some of the polls that have come out in New Zealand rugby. We'll look a little bit into that, see what everybody's feeling. And then, of course, after the break, Ben Karpinski will be with us and we'll talk a little bit of sport. But let's get straight into it. Right, Test cricket is back. And this, for some reason, continues to be a conversation. And the English seem to take it seriously. I don't know what we're still talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is James Anderson versus Dale Steyn. Now, in my mind, I don't understand what we're still talking about. But I guess it's still out there, you know? James Anderson, the Duke swing king, they love him in England. He's got all those wickets and, hey, what you going to do? You know the English. The 3 Lions, they'll back anyone. The great thing about the English is they'll back their guy. Doesn't even matter how mediocre he is. James Anderson, over 500 Test wickets, of course. So plenty to go on about. But listen, let's get serious about this. There isn't a competition here. We're talking about possibly the best ever versus actually a really mediocre bowler. Mediocre is harsh. A good bowler. And I'm being kind at good. You don't have to like what I'm saying. One is legendary and is in the conversation for being the greatest fast bowler of all time and arguably the greatest Test bowler of all time. He is in that conversation. I believe there's 3 of them. So let's have a look at Steyn versus Anderson, because this is the argument, who is the swing king? We're going to start off by looking at their records. Right, 93 games for Dale Steyn, 151 games for Jimmy Anderson. So one has the longevity. And listen, we got to be honest, the greatest ability is availability. I've always said that, so I'm not going to back off now. Anderson wins on that. Congratulations for the professionalism. Steyn had his injury problems. Listen, probably a higher motor, higher impact action, and the guy bowls 20 kilometers faster than Anderson. So it's going to happen. Almost double the amount of balls bowled, of course. So here's where what we care about, right? Is the wickets. 584 for Anderson at the moment. He is playing right now in his 152nd test match. I think he's playing today, versus 439 for Steyn. So on that, you go, oh, Anderson's way better. But then you go down a little, and then you start to get to the interesting part. So some people, you may or may not know, the average for a bowler, of course, is how many runs per wicket. Dale Steyn's average is 22.9. 22.95. That's 439 wickets at 22.95. You'll see in a little bit why that is ridiculous. Jimmy Anderson, 26.83. So then that longevity becomes slightly less impressive when you go, there's all-rounders with that bowling average. There are all-rounders with a 27 bowling average. So, I don't know. But that's not the exceptional part about Dale Steyn. Let's go to the most important thing in cricket. For bowlers, your new ball bowler, it's all about the strike rate. I'll take an expensive bowler, right, with a higher average, and generally this won't happen, but I want a strike rate, because your strike rate tells me how many balls it takes you to take a wicket. That's all a strike rate is. Dale Steyn takes 14 less balls to take a wicket than James Anderson. So 2 less overs. So Dale Steyn's strike rate is 42.1. So James Anderson basically takes 10 overs before he takes a wicket. 10 overs. That's 2 spells for a fast bowler in a test match. Because generally they go 6 up front and then they'll come back on the back end and get 6 in the afternoon. You try and balance it out. You try and give them 3 spells a day. Generally, if you have to bowl a whole day, you bowl 3 spells. 6, 6, 6. So you're telling me you're going to get 3 wickets a day? That's what Anderson's giving me. Can't work with that. Can't work with that. Here's where it becomes interesting for me. 60 less test matches played for Dale Steyn. He's only got 2 less in terms of the 5-wicket haul. He's got more 10-fers. And here's what makes it amazing is Dale Steyn played in a way better bowling lineup for most of his career. Right? He was with Philander. He was with Rabada. And then he had prime Morkel for 4 years. Anderson was the guy. There was Anderson and Broad, and the rest was cannon fodder. I mean, they had a decent, an okay Graham Swan, who was good for about 2.5 years. So Anderson was the guy. He should have been taking all the wickets. He's played 60 test matches more. Dale Steyn has 2 less 5ers and more 10-fers. It doesn't make sense in a team with Philander, Prime Rabada, and Morkel. Dale Steyn's the guy. So people might say, okay, you're a little biased. You're just doing comparing the two. That's not the way to do it. I'll tell you how we'll do it then. Let's have a look at the top 10 bowlers in the history of Test cricket in terms of wickets. Okay, listen, Muller, I'm not a huge fan of Muller because most of their stuff is at home. I had a look at the stats. Most of it's on the subcontinent. And mostly, quite frankly, Muta was opening the bowling for Sri Lanka. They were useless. It was him and Chaminda Vas, and the rest was cannon fodder. Dilhara Fernando is club cricket, right? I mean, nonsense, quite frankly. Malinga's not a serious cricketer. So Muller at 800 is an outlier because he bowled so many balls, right? He was an opening bowler. He bowled like 60 overs a day. Most of his stuff is in losing causes. No good. No good. So love Muller, legendary, but I don't consider him as anything to be considered in the GOAT conversation. But incredible average, by the way. So there we go. Muller, 22 average, right? 55 strike rate. Shane Warne, who I believe is the greatest test bowler of all time, 25 average, 57 strike rate. Why is he the best? He drove Australia to winning multiple series everywhere. He was the difference maker in that era. He was the difference maker. Anil Kumble, we know who he is. 619 wickets, 29 average, 65 strike rate. Not great. Anil Kumble, really, people called him a leg spinner. He's right arm straight. Took his wickets with the bounce, and he had a great googly. Now, here's James Anderson. So he is the 4th highest wicket taker, 26 average, 2.86 economy rate, and 56 strike rate. So in the top 10, I'm looking in the top 5, he's easily got the worst average. So he's going to concede the most runs, and I can't live with that strike rate at 56.1. I just cannot, considering you're the new ball bowler, because right below him is where he gets exposed. You want to be great. Glenn McGrath's average is 21.6, 51 strike rate. I can live with that a little more. Let's go down. Broad, I think Broad shouldn't even be on this list. Another one who's a longevity guy, right? 28 average, 57 strike rate, not to be taken seriously. 28 average, you're an all-rounder. That's like having Jacques Kallis on the list, basically. Here's what makes Dale Steyn phenomenal. First of all, what is he doing in the top 10? Because he's only played 93 test matches. He's taken, 50 less wickets than Broad, which is outrageous, by the way, because Broad's played 138 test matches. Steyn's played 93 test matches. 22.95 average. But here's what's incredible. I mean, everybody can read the stats. Don't need to read all of them for you. 42.3 strike rate. Nobody in the top 10 is anywhere near 50. He is the only person, basically in the history of Test cricket, to have a strike rate, take over 400 wickets, and his strike rate is 42.3. You're getting a wicket every 7 overs. I want you to let that sink in. Which means every spell you bring him on, he is the only bowler in the history of Test cricket who will guarantee you a wicket. Every single spell. Can we stop it with the Anderson thing? Let's stop it with the Anderson thing. Because it's not fair to Anderson, quite frankly, and it's becoming a bit of a joke. 26 average versus 22 average. 42 strike rate. Are you kidding me? That means every time you throw Dale Steyn the ball, you're getting a wicket. Here's what's even more incredible. Outside of the spinners in the top 10, Dale Steyn is the only person, no other seamer, has 5 10-fers or more. He played in the team with Philander, with Prime Rabada, with Prime Morkel. Let's stop it. We're talking about a guy who's in the top 3. In fact, I'll give you McGrath and nobody else as a better fast bowler than him in the history of cricket. My only criticism of Dale Steyn, the only black mark on his career, they never went to India and won. That's what McGrath did. And McGrath was integral in that 1-0 series win. The benchmark in cricket is not winning a World Cup. The benchmark in cricket is winning a 5-test match series in India. I'm sorry, that is the toughest challenge in cricket. Dale Steyn, best bowler, I would argue, second best bowler, fast bowler in the history of cricket. James Anderson, maybe in the top 20. Maybe in the top 20. Let's stop the longevity thing, and if you're British, stop it. They don't belong on the same page. One is legendary, the other has an all-rounder's average. Do me a favor. This isn't a lifetime award. So this is the last time I ever want to hear Dale Steyn, Anderson, who's the swing king. Please can we move on? Please can we move on? Dale Steyn is quite simply the greatest fast bowler of his era. McGrath is a different era. I don't ever want to hear Steyn versus Anderson because that's not a competition. Don't compare a Ferrari to a cart horse. Steyn is a Ferrari, Anderson is a cart horse. Mediocrity versus the finest. There is no conversation there, and I'm done with it. Dale Steyn, the king of swing. Speaking of kings, it's getting contentious in New Zealand. Are we starting to see some cracks in the All Black setup? Oh my goodness. To find out more, Woude, what you got for us in the skip pass?
It's quite an interesting time in New Zealand. Obviously, their local rugby is amazing, and we're seeing some great talent coming through, some great matches, some great rugby being played. But there was this anonymous poll that was done in New Zealand by NZME, which is like a media, whatever, in New Zealand. And they did this poll amongst the current New Zealand Super Rugby players. They sent out a 40-question survey, and they've tried to get some insight about, from a player's point of view, like what the state of the game is nationwide. So they ask questions like who's the best player under the age of 23, who's the best midfielder, the best professional coach they've played under, the most respected player. So they ask all of these kinds of questions, and you can go look it up to see the answers to all of them. But the next one, I just wanted to include these 2 specific ones because I know what this is going to do to Mbolelo, and it makes me so happy. So Beauden Barrett was voted the best player in New Zealand rugby by 40% of the players. Not only was he voted best player in New Zealand rugby, he was also voted the best fly half in New Zealand rugby by 58%. So we, and especially Molelo, definitely doesn't think that Beauden Barrett-Eden deserves to be in the All Black squad. But what do you think of these stats then on these voting percentages?
I think it's ridiculous. Like it's clear he's not the best fly off. The guy, how can you be the best fly off when you don't have a tactical kicking game? It doesn't make sense. Beauden Barrett does not have a tactical kicking game, so how can he be the best fly half? Like fundamentally. But yeah, okay. Go on.
No, I think these are coming from people that played with him. Now I'm going to keep talking over you. These are coming from people who play with him, that play with both of them. So I think it's quite an interesting thing that this is what they're saying. So obviously, what we're seeing from the outside, and like you said, maybe his kicking percentage, his tactical kicking and whatever he does, but what he actually does on the field and what it actually means to the players around him must be so massive that they're thinking that this is the impact that he's bringing to the field.
Players aren't the best judges of quality play. Honestly, they're not. Like, I know in the olden days, people used to think, oh, you have to have played the game, but we've seen it now. The most successful coaches are not necessarily the guys that have played the most or the best players. So, of course, you want to be on line with Barrett because he's the guy. But it's clear. So what that is it's a popularity contest. It's not a quality contest. So, all right. Pick him again. You'll lose another Lions series. You'll lose another World Cup because you got a one-dimensional fly half. But hey, good for him.
I knew I was going to get this out of you. That's why I included those two specifically. But what was more interesting to me is the fact that 46% of the players actually said that they're not happy with Ian Foster being appointed as the All Blacks coach. So Ian Foster got appointed as the coach after Stephen Hansen, which was obviously a brilliant coach, and what he's achieved with the All Blacks has been absolutely amazing. But now they're saying, and what is interesting, so if you kind of look at it, if it was fans that said this, you'll be like, oh yeah, whatever. But these are actually also coming from players again. So 46% said no. 28% of the players said yes, they're happy with the appointment. And 26% said they're fine with him. They just don't like his assistants that he's appointed and the people that are going to work with him. So the assistants are John Plumtree, who's the ex-Hurricane coach, Brad Moyer, who came from Scarlet, Greg Feek, who is the Island Scrum coach, and then Scott McLeod, who was the defense coach for the All Blacks, also in this 2019 World Cup. So he's staying part of it. So it is quite interesting that they saying that the assistants are not good. I guess it's also okay because the assistants they're all on a 2-year contract. So after 2 years, they'll get reassessed and see if they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But when it comes to Ian Foster, I'm not really sure if they're being actually like completely fair to him. I think he took over in a very difficult time, obviously with the whole COVID situation. He had to find ways to make rugby work in New Zealand because they're technically basically almost the only country that's really playing rugby at the moment. So who else are they going to play against? So I think it's really difficult for him. He picked Sam Cane as the captain, which I guess might be for some people a bit of a controversial. I think some people thought it will be Brodie Retallick or Sam Whitelock. But also a lot of people have respect for Sam Cane, and in this poll they also asked, and he's one of the players that people have the most respect for. But Ian, if you look at his stats and if you look at his records, he did not have a great record as Chiefs coach. They only won 50% of their matches. They only made it to 2 finals. The one was in 2004 when they lost to the Brumbies, and the other one in 2009 when they got demolished by the Bulls. We all remember that. So, but he was also co-coach for the junior All Blacks in 2005 to 2007 and again in 2009. Was part of the New Zealand setup since 2012 because he was assistant coach for Stephen Hansen. So they obviously saw something special in him and decided to kind of give him this apprenticeship under Hansen with the thinking to take over from him, obviously. And even before Hansen took over, people were skeptical when he got appointed. They're like, no, he's not the guy that should have taken over. They actually said at that stage, a guy, Robbie Dean, I think that's who it was. They actually said he needs to take over. And when he didn't get the job, people were very critical of Hansen. And what has he done? He won He was involved in 2 World Cup wins. He obviously had the back-to-back World Cup win in 2015. He had 93% success rate as an All Blacks coach. And this is coming from when he was involved in the Wales setup, where he hardly won anything. In Wales, they had a 11 match losing streak. They lost all 6 matches in the Six Nations when he was involved in Wales. So even though he was doing that, he still came into the All Black setup and he actually did really, really well with the guys. They won 93 out of 108 test matches. And I mean, he won Coach of the Year 2 years in a row. So I think Foster obviously had a great mentor in Stephen Hansen. So I don't think we should really be judging Foster on what is happening now. And I guess I can understand that people would have wanted to lean towards Robertson more, that he's a Crusaders coach. I think especially the younger guys, because who doesn't want a coach that's going to break dance in front of you and do all of these crazy things and be one of the boys. But that I think is okay in a union setup. When you get to test match rugby, it's a very, very different story. Robertson does have a great track record. Maybe it would have been nice to have a breath of fresh air. But I think he needs to still earn his stripes. He needs to be involved in the setup, go through the ranks, and then become in the setup, because I do think he will make a brilliant coach. He's still very young. But as far as I know, and I might be mistaken, he was offered the assistant job under Foster now, but he decided not to take it. I'm not entirely sure what was happening there, if it was just sour grapes that he didn't want to take it. But if you also think about surveys, I guess, it's always like the people that are unhappy about something that take them. So I guess we can't take it too seriously what these people are saying. But yeah, I think Foster needs to be able to be given a chance. He's got 2 years to prove himself. Maybe we shouldn't be that hard on him. He ticks all the boxes. I guess the real question will probably be, what is he going to do after 2023? If they do win the World Cup, is he going to get another 4 years? So people will always kind of backtrack and say, like, oh, yeah, no, now it's a good choice. So, yeah, I don't know.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
It's a off-brand move for the All Blacks, because you don't often hear things coming out of the All Black camp. So if I'm an All Black supporter, I start to worry about this stuff. How did this get out? Is the new regime not keeping a tight enough kind of eye on things?
Yeah.
What's happening? Because I've never seen this happen with the All Blacks, that they generally run like a Formula One team, a cycling team. Nothing gets out of there. So maybe there's some cracks in the system.
Yeah, look, I really hope that they can build on, obviously, some people probably call it mistakes that they made, the fact that they didn't win the World Cup in 2019. But if you do think they had that 18 match winning streak, which was obviously a record for them. 2003, they had an unbeaten season under Hansen. So if you want to call one mistake the fact that they couldn't get through the England defense, and the one match that they really needed to win, they didn't win, I guess if you want to look at that, try to work on those things and fix, because we all know that New Zealand's brilliant in their attacking game. And I think probably what Eddie Jones has done, and Eddie Jones has shown us in the past, that he kind of picks the game and he knows how to win that, exactly how Japan beat the Springboks in 2015. So I guess if you want to point a finger at something, that could be it. And maybe Foster will look at that and find new ways to make the New Zealand unpredictable. So I'm hoping that he can do that. I'm hoping he can fix their mistakes and build the foundation that they have. Like you said, New Zealand does have a great foundation. Our tracks starting to show. Is it maybe necessary to start thinking like, maybe we should have looked at the guy who's in the system and say, he didn't live up to our expectations this time and we need to get someone new in, because they're so used to taking the guy who's been in the system and kind of building on that. So was this maybe an option for them to have changed that and put in another guy who wasn't part of the system and give him his 2 years? So it will be interesting to see what's going to happen when they can start playing test matches again.
So what's interesting about this situation is I was fortunate enough to be coached by one of the greatest New Zealand rugby players of all time in school, a guy called Murray Mexted. And I did drop him a text about this when he got appointed. And let me just say he was less than positive about him because, so I'm not going to tell you what he said, but he was less than positive about Ian Foster being the manager, or the coach. So,
okay.
Tricky times for the All Blacks. And remember, here's what the tricky part is. They've now lost 2 major tournaments in a row. They came short against the British and Irish Lions. They came short at the World Cup. So let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Ian Foster, are you the guy to turn it around?
Yeah, so like I said, this might have been the perfect time for them to not have go through that. And Ian Foster, interesting, so all the other coaches kind of also coached in the Northern Hemisphere. He's one of the only guys that's only really, from the last few years, that's only coached in New Zealand rugby. So does that also count against him? Should he have gone out and get a little bit of experience somewhere else, grow, learn from other people? He's only been involved. He was involved as a chief or juniors, and then he got involved in the senior setup. And I mean, he's not an old guy. He's only 55. Maybe he should have gone to the Northern Hemisphere first.
It's a good point. I mean, you look at the last 2 greats they've had. Graham Henry, he went Wales, British Lions twice, and then they went, of course, Hansen was in that setup. He went Wales home. Yeah. And now I think that Warren Gatland is going to be the next guy because he's been through Wales, British Lions.
I don't know. I think he needs to learn a bit as a coach if he really wants to be a good coach, knowing how to deal with the players. I think he's got quite a soft and tough. Not sure if they'll be able to take over that role. So I think his role as a coach will have to change quite a bit. Will he be able to adjust that and adapt? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, no, Graham Henry was in good shape. Just Hansen, who was a big boy.
Yeah, but to finish this one off, I think the funniest thing that did come out of this was they also looked at who was the best and worst. They picked, the New Zealanders picked Angus Gardner as the best referee, the Australian, and the worst one was Glenn Jack Lawrence. And that's true. The future, as they said.
Oh, that's very funny.
And we can all agree with that.
We certainly can. I think that's a message we can all buy into. Bryce Lawrence, nightmare. All right, so Glenn Jackson, worst ref in New Zealand, huh?
Yeah.
Legendary white fullback. Legendary white cat fullback and no good as a ref, they say, Cody.
That's what they say. That's what the New Zealanders are saying.
Tough break.
Luckily he's retired now, so you won't have to deal with them on the field anymore.
That was the skip pass with Woude Muller. Coming up next, our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, can't wait to chat to Ben Karpinski. Listen, let's waste no time. Let's get to him. So I'm going to introduce our guest and bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, coming out of the rugby production factory, that is Sax down in Cape Town. He is the finest Polish punisher. He is under review at the moment with a revenge body coming out in the summer. Go and check it out on Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Everything in Sport, Ben Karpinski.
But that was very impressive, despite the fact that I went to Weinberg, which is Sax's biggest rival. But otherwise, 10 out of 10.
I don't know. It's all in Cape Town. I should have done my research.
Well, they are the two oldest schools. There's a big rivalry between which one was older. But yeah, that's not actually that interesting. But yeah, I went to Weinberg. I grew up in Cape Town. Now living in Joburg, happy here.
I thought St. Andrews was the oldest school in the country, or are those two just the oldest in Cape Town?
Yeah, I'm gonna call bollocks and St. Andrews because think about it. Everything happened in Cape Town, right? Where is St. Andrews?
Sure.
Grahamstown. Are you telling me that boats? Are you telling me boats landed at Grahamstown? No, everyone started in Cape Town, moved up. So everything is the oldest in Cape Town.
Okay. Well, there we go. I don't even want to look into it. You were so confident when you said it. Let's go with it.
That was both geography and history right at you.
It's Ben, how are you doing today, man?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks to Muller. I am a very busy man at the moment for all good reasons, and definitely missing sport because it's like that level where good day, bad day, confusing day, encouraging day. There's always sport to look forward to the weekend or during the week, and like even with like the no crowds and the sports that are trying to get back, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that I'm ungrateful. It's just that when you know something, you love something, and you want something, substitutes are just always so hard to kind of stomach.
So you want it like in its purest form, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a massive golf fan, but right now watching golf isn't the same. It just isn't the same. Like I love MMA, and I thought in the beginning that like the no crowds, you'd hear the more of the fight, but you need that whole energy of the crowd. You know, it's a very all-consuming sport. So when it's just those guys, second, third time you watch it with no crowd, it's just not quite the same. It feels too training run-like, and knowing what these guys go through to get into the hexagon, it's so much more than the training fight. And these guys are putting their lives on the line here. Yeah, so it is a bit sad. But then again, as we keep hearing far too many times the new normal, we've got to find ways to, I guess, enjoy and appreciate this.
Talk to me about, okay, well, let's get into it. Yas Island this weekend,
Yas.
Fight Island. Let's get straight into it because Yas Island. So, hey, what do you think of Dana White? I absolutely love that guy.
Yeah, but he's one of those guys that you would love to replicate here in South Africa and maybe get in charge of, say, Cricket South Africa, Bafana, Safa, anyone basically, because here is a guy who basically wanted something and he did everything he could to get it. He's a fantastic promoter. It's one of the toughest things you can be in this world is a fight promoter. Not only has he done that, survived, mostly got all his teeth in place, or at least made enough money to replace the ones he lost, but he's actually created an empire which is becoming a shining example across all other sports. When you think about it, MMA is still a young sport in the greater scheme of things. It's got a bad reputation in certain areas, and it's a very difficult thing to manage because you've got electric personalities. You're fighting, okay? So straight away, this sport has just got so many amazing contrasting figures to it. And this guy's managed to just package it perfectly, and it's going from strength to strength. And it's just no wonder that amongst this whole COVID scenario, they're the one sport that's really come out and just kicked on, really.
I think you've nailed it with Dana. You know, I always say this, and I know we've spoken about it, is I've always said my two favorite, and there's a guy who's creeping into the conversation, Eddie Hearn, who's Anthony Joshua's promoter and Matchroom Boxing. But Vince McMahon and Dana White are my two favorite in the world, right? Is aggressive always wins. And we lack that as South Africans. And it pains me to say it, is we're humble to the point where it's very difficult for me to get along with most South Africans, purely because that, like, there's some virtue in humility for whatever reason. And I get we're Judeo-Christian society, blah, blah, blah. But it pains me. It pains me. And when I see Dana White and I see Vince McMahon, I mean, WrestleMania, flagship event, oh, no worries. We're going to do that in the lockdown, in the basement of our training center, Vince McMahon. You know, like, do you think we could ever capture that sort of energy in South Africa, or do you think we're just too placid?
Yeah, it's a very good point, and you won't hear people ever raise that point. I think a journalist's mind will explode in traditional senses if they're even told what you just said now. But it's very true. I mean, like, we're in a country where humility is seen as like this amazing thing. It's like when guys go, yes, I met that Bismarck guy. He was so humble, huh? Yeah, that's a nothing thing for me. Like, okay, so you're not a dick. You're humble. Okay, wow, that's amazing. But it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't get you anywhere because anybody can be humble. You don't have to go to college to become humble. It's just a cool personality trait you throw around, Maybe your girlfriend's parents want to look at you and say, he's actually quite a humble guy. That's cool because they see a future of you not being an absolute disaster for their daughter-in-law. But the whole thing is that that's going to get you nowhere. I think a lot of it comes down to the sort of Calvinist society that obviously South Africa on the Afrikaans side brought up. It's a very deep philosophical conversation all of a sudden. But
all right, let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Because like here, the moment you talk yourself up, you're seen as vingat. It's a lovely Afrikaans word that gets thrown around. Now, it's a cool word to throw around in golfing terms when you're a 24 handicap and you think you're going to have the longest drive and it doesn't happen. Call the guy vingat, or you're just having a laugh. But if your job is to be the best fly-off or the best sprinter or the best bowler, whatever, and you do everything you can to make it happen, don't call the guy vingat. He's motivated. I remember when Werner Philander came onto the scene. Now, if you've ever seen a conversation, any sort of interview with Vern, he says, 23 times. He says it like he basically breathes. And he says, obviously. So every interview with Vern is obviously, it's about playing cricket. And obviously, I want to be the guy who obviously, is this guy. So when he came on the scene, he spoke like that. And the actual words he did use were the fact that was, I am the best in domestic cricket. I have done this in first-class cricket. No one's come close to this. And everyone at this press conference or this thing that I was at, they were like, this guy's so vingat. What happened? He went on to be an absolute phenomenon in the Test cricket game because his mind was already, I've been the best here, I'm now going to be the best here. And this is the whole thing is that we do lack this. Go back to Jenna Whitepoint's very long-windedly. That's the guy. He believes in excellence. And sport, if you're not excellent, you're second. And if you're second, you're last, depending on which kind of a motivational poster you want to kind of reference. So I think we do have this horrible thing in the public that the moment someone talks out like that, we want to bring him down to ground. We want to chop his legs out from under him. But we should really actually admire that. And in America as well, they're very, I know, because I've had some Zoom calls with Americans recently in a business sense, and you never know if they're being serious or not because they're so overly positive and it's like, yeah, this is amazing. But they're very happy to put someone on a pedestal because in their mind, they're living in this endless movie. I mean, that country is the closest you'll ever get to the Truman Show, basically. And they always want to have that Super Bowl moment, like those Dennis Quaid movies where he's always going to get the top somehow. And it's like, that's exactly why phrases like, you're the man, get in the hole. Americans are very jumpy with the positive stuff, which is maybe something we should apply here a little bit more, rather than try knock our players down a peg if they ever seem overly confident.
I love America. There's, every country in the world has its negatives, and I only care about sport in the world. So for me, what they've done, you look at, how are the Dallas Cowboys the most valuable franchise in the world? It's a sport that less than 5% of the world cares about, but they get it. Because Jerry Jones, you know what he did? He went and plunged in Texas, found that he's been broke 10 times. But he went and plunged. He said, I'm going to buy the Dallas Cowboys. And he says, we do it better than bigger and better in Texas than everybody in the world. These guys get it.
It is, because what does it come down to? They want to get it. They want to do something, right? A lot of our guys here, they just want jobs. Guys in America and on more the sports are particularly doing well. They've got some very driven, hard-ass individuals who have such an interest in their goals, and they just don't stop until they get them. Here, it's like, well, we don't want to rock the boat. We want to play the political card. We want to make sure we've got the right sort of support base amongst board members, all that kind of stuff. All this bureaucracy and all this diplomacy or politically correct bullshit, it doesn't get us anywhere. And I think we're seeing all these kind of federations imploding or at least very much plateauing at best. All because of this, We need people who really want to do something, and we just give them the reins to really go and do it. But we don't like arrogant people because arrogance is seen as, being pushy.
So, Ben, good point. So my argument, and everybody seems to disagree with me, including everybody here on the show, is my thing. People always think I'm because I am so humble. I'm almost humble.
Exactly.
That's really my biggest weakness. I'm too humble. But Ben, my thing is this, right? Speaking to this point, and I hate to make it sound like we're just attacking us. I think it's a global problem because I think the British tend to have this humility complex as well. I honestly believe rugby and cricket should cancel or diminish the international level of it, because at international level, I have to leave it in the hands of bureaucrats. For me, I say, focus on domestic stuff and use the Premier League model. Let billionaires be in charge of sport. Don't let bureaucrats be in charge of sport. So for me, I really don't care about any sport where the international level is the highest level, because I know there's a monetary cap to that. To me, I love what's happening in France. Super Rugby every franchise should be owned by billionaires. Let billionaires build innovative business models. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And as much as I think it's very nice that we go to games and we sing anthems that some people either hate or they're taking a knee for or they just don't know the words to, that's cool. It's almost a little bit archaic, though. You know, like all the heat basically is these really well-run promotions. And as you say, the Premier League is a great example of that. MMA, people aren't going out and fighting for America. Sure, their nationalities, they're fighting as sort of people. But it's not like, okay, well, we're now going to sing Star Spangled Banner. No, we are going to go and fight. We are here for sport. Please, can we leave this patriotism out of the way? Because it's just kind of amateurish. Like the Olympics, beautiful thing back in the day, because after war times where we clearly never got along, these kind of things were amazing because it got people together, right? So therefore, have your patriotism,
Sure.
have your national fervor, all that kind of stuff. That's cool. And it kind of works in the Olympics because the Olympics is a lovely throwback to when sport was amateurish, right? That was the whole thing about the Olympics. Yep. It was for the good of the game. Well, I'm sorry, but it's not the good of the game anymore. It's the good of entertainment. Entertainment is the only thing that really matters. Sport nowadays is up against Netflix. It's up against whatever the Kardashians are going to put on the tape next. And it's up against any rapper. And it's up against anybody, basically. It's just like politics. Politics isn't about politics. It's about entertainment. It's about news ratings. It's about selling these campaigns and all these big organizations. We are all in the same boat. So we can't still think that we're now going to have this beautiful thing called sport back in the day. I mean, FIFA, say what you want about them. They got it. They basically said, we want to own football, right? Back when they first started the World Cup. So they started the World Cup in what, the 1930, 34, 38?
Yeah, a long time ago. Uruguay were the kings.
So these guys, they were like, okay, we're FIFA, we're going to own football. And England were like, get stuffed. We don't care about this. So those first two World Cups in Uruguay, there was like 8 teams? Like nobody teams. Uruguay won it. Like that just shows you how little of a toss Europe gave about it. But then FIFA were like, well, guys, we got to go. We got to basically own football. I could be slightly wrong in how I'm giving you this history lesson right now. But they understood that
you're 100% right.
You can commercialize sports and make it entertaining, and you package it. So once you do that, that's cool. So you are so right. Locally here, we have the system that's not working. And right now, I'm very passionate about job creation. I'm very passionate about the economy working again. And I'm very passionate about people having a purpose around sport. This isn't going to happen. We got guys like Gideon Sam, whoever is, I think he's overseeing a SASCOC election at the moment. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. We've got Cricket South Africa right now having no understanding what to do with Tabangoro. Rugby, well, we're the world champions, so there's a bit of goodwill around there. And SAFA, well, there don't be too many great stories around that, right? All of these teams, we should just think like, okay, well, they're not getting it right. So we've really got to be big boys around this, or big girls, and let's actually really scrap all this kind of stuff. I totally agree with you. Like my biggest goal, right? So Rock Nation, we all know what Rock Nation is.
Yeah, Jay-Z is now part of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I saw a thing today. They were doing like a video about AC Milan and how cool AC Milan is. They had the Jonas Brothers. They had like other celebrities, and everyone was getting around this whole thing about Milan. So it's a beautiful city. It's a global city, and this football team. Obviously, they've got Inter and AC in one place, which makes it even more interesting. But Rock Nation's focus was on AC, and I was thinking like, all these old unions, right? We talk about rugby being an old white Afrikaans kind of sport, and it's based around these unions. So we had provincialism. Provincialism back in the day was what we could do during apartheid to bliksem each other under a name of something honorable. Bollocks, really. So we should just scrap all this kind of stuff. Western Province Rugby Union right now is having this kind of fracas around the property rights for around the stadium or whatever. I'm not entirely sure what's going to go so well. All these other unions aren't going well. Now, football obviously has various teams. I mean, first recently sold themselves to a team I can't pronounce, not because I'm ignorant, because there's about 7 names in there. And like, that's not going so well. That's like a weird kind of extreme case. And then you got rugby, who is like on these unions, and they're over here. what I think we should do is really just go in every single city, right? Now let's just do this properly. Every city has a team. So rugby, cricket, whatever. Now it's quite interesting because Patrice Motsepe obviously owns Sundowns, and now he's got a stake with the Bulls, and they want to make that like Tshwane rugby football. I think that's a great start. Apologies, I think I'm going all over the place here, but I will narrow it in the point eventually.
Ben, on internet, let's talk. We're talking.
So if we can centralize everything around here, around the cities, and then what you start doing is bring in all the different communities of what makes a city special. And then we get the people to say, right, you can own a share in this team even, or you, as you say, get the billionaires in, or you can just start buying shares in the team. Every city then has these things. So then there's a Cape Town team, Pretoria, Johannesburg, Bloemfontein, Durban, whatever. Put a team in Uppington, I don't care. If there's money, you can build it, they'll come. But we need to start understanding that sport isn't what it was 30 years ago. Kids aren't going to school and then they're going to go watch things on live sport because they've got screens right now. They're not even paying attention to their parents anymore. They're not going to go and watch a live sport thing arranged at a certain time on the weekend. We must just forget this example completely. So we've got to find new ways to make sports very inclusive. And this whole city plan, which is something I really want to work in, I feel quite passionate about. Get the people who can own things and can run things, they must own these teams in the cities. Just imagine what you could do with Johannesburg, right? Like, it's such an amazing cosmopolitan city. There's so much to be proud of here. We have granted a rugby venue in Hillbrow, which is synonymously quite dodgy, but we've got a great stadium with Wanderers here. Let's do things around these. Let's make match day something you come for. Even if you don't care about sport, let's get people there to make an entertainment piece, just like baseball is in America. Baseball, even people who love baseball know it's boring. But when you go to these games, which are really great attractions, they've made the stadiums attractions like malls almost. There's like 7 different bars you can go to. Everything's got Wi-Fi for a start, so you can really have fun. Just put your kids there and lose them like you used to lose them at the mall. You can lose them at sports stadiums. We've got to start taking a much broader view around this fact that sport isn't about 2 teams getting on a field and one of them is better than the other on the day. It's so much more than that. There's pre-game, there's during game, there's after game, there's build-up to game. Everyone can be involved in sports, and this is what makes me quite frustrated about now, is that all these people who had a purpose, that purpose has been taken away because we haven't got live sport. And now, with it being back behind closed doors a lot of the time, it's like, it doesn't really matter anymore. So, what I'm saying is I totally agree with you. We need people who can run things like businesses. And I know that's a very capitalistic, simplistic way of thinking about things, but it's the only way these things are going to actually work because they're in competition with other entertainment businesses and they really are floundering right now.
Hey, what you've just said is such a good point. Is I don't know why sport is unique in this sense, Ben. It is the only form of entertainment. No other form of entertainment, and I've really given this some thought, gets moralized. Like, why are we moralizing the capitalist needs of sport? Yeah. Nobody has ever said Lars Ulrich or who's the Metallica guy, the drummer or whatever is. I don't know, Lars whatever. Lars something. He's got, Lars, I'm hitting drums for Metallica. Nobody's ever said, what's the morality behind him earning $40 million a year? Sport is the only place where people want to bring their morals to entertainment. Nobody's ever said, hey, in Hollywood, they take their clothes off to make money and they're selling sex. Nobody ever says that. But when it comes to sport, why do we want to moralize it? So I think you've made a tremendous point there. But Ben, at the risk of becoming these guys who are just going to point out the negatives, let's talk a little bit about sport that is back. And I know you're passionate about stuff and you guys are doing some great stuff. We'll chat about Match Kit in a bit. Tell me something. Bryson DeChambeau on the weekend is out here doing what you're doing. He came out with a revenge body. I don't know if you saw his eating plan, by the way. He was having 9 protein shakes a day during lockdown. I don't know if you saw his Instagram post about his diet.
Yeah, basically his colon's going to explode by the time they get to the Masters. It's going to be an incredible scene. He'll be basically lining up the putt for his first green jacket. And then you're going to just see him suddenly go and sort of keel over with an exploded colon. It'll be a history that we'll never see again. I mean, the thing about Bryson DeChambeau is that he, again, is a desire to win. So what is he doing? Everything he possibly can to make it happen. So he's worked out that if he's going to be hitting the ball 360 yards, his attack points at all holes on golf courses is a much more, I don't know, kind of easier, I guess. I mean, if you don't know anything about golf, the less club you have in hand, which means there's more loft in your club, the more accuracy you can have. So if his competitors are hitting 4 iron to a green, he's hitting 8 iron to a green, 9 times out of 10, he'll be closer to the flagstick. And this is what this guy is. Socially, Bryson is what you would call slow.
Physics guy, though.
Yeah,
physics major. So don't.
No.
As a fellow science graduate, I'm not going to have you talk Bryson DeChambeau down. And go on.
Yeah, so I know it's quite mean when you call someone slow socially, but the whole thing is this guy is tuned differently to other people. He probably doesn't have any mates from below. You guys actually probably get along quite well. But he's so tuned, he's so incredibly tuned to how he goes about what he does. And the whole thing about getting this body is because in his mind, he wants to get 200-mile-an-hour ball speed. Okay, so this is something that he worked out to be the way forward. And all of this, it's just like, I don't know what the physical equation is because I'm mostly illiterate, seeing as I went to a school that played rugby and basically spoke about rugby. But force equals something. If you are 100 kilograms, the chance of you hitting a nail with a hammer is a lot stronger than if you're 80 kilograms, right? So put that on a golf ball. God, I'm really so long-winded after dark. Put that on a golf ball, and that's exactly what he's doing. But however, this isn't going to be a long experiment because, like I said, once his colon explodes from all the protein shakes and the lack of stool passing, he won't be able to do this. So I think we should appreciate it for what it is right now. The Bryson DeChambeau experiment right now is something that everyone should watch. And I tell you what, it is the biggest thing in golf right now. Bigger than Tiger. Well, previous to this, Tiger winning the Masters was huge. This thing right now with Bryson is the biggest thing in that sport.
If you know anybody who has studied physics, is they are mind people, and to just physics, you got a different person. He's in a tunnel. He gives stuff. What you think, Bryson DeChambeau? I'm behind it because I'm a high guy, and show me a little bit of high guy. I don't care what anybody's saying. I'm doing what I'm doing. So hey, I might start again.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he's got a worrying diet, really. I mean, like, I understand nutrition. I understand what builds muscle, all that kind of stuff. I mean, he has, as you say, like, that much protein powder is not good. And clearly he's got a decent digestive tract. Like I said, the fact that he's still alive. And obviously being young is also cool, hey? I remember when I was in my 20s once. Yeah. You can get away with a lot. You can bounce back from a lot as well.
So Ben, you're like, and you revenge body. Dude, talk. When did you just that you're going to go to down? And for anybody watching, go to Ben. The guy's looking wild. I'm a similar to work out hard in the holidays. And man, seeing your Instagram, I can really talk me through the mental process of getting this go.
Sorry, you broke up this side, so forgive me if I misinterpret the question. I started working out at the beginning of this year because a couple of things. I didn't look great, and secondly, I have quite a bad back issue, and I literally cannot play 2 rounds of golf in a row, but I love the game of golf. And if you can't play golf in life, then it makes you feel very feeble physically. So I wanted to get a better core, I wanted better strength, and I wanted better functional strength. So I started this bodyweight themed exercise called Strength Side. Literally, I woke up January 1st, hungover like any other dipshit, and I saw this on Instagram, and I bought the program straight away, and I got cracking. I cannot put on weight, I cannot lose weight, so that's one thing I have going for me. I am this sort of endomorphic kind of person, and I've always had an athletic ability, but now with this back issue that I've got, it just gets worse and worse. So what I have been able to do with this program is actually commit to 24 weeks of exercise. Prior to this, I would have issues. I would kind of like be like Oprah, be really great and then just fall off, and then go really great again with motivation and fall off. Whereas with this, it's 24 weeks where every day, I work out 5 days a week. And I don't drink as much as I used to, obviously, because I can't see friends, and I don't drink at home. Although I'm having a glass of wine now because, well, it's Thursday. So basically, it's like 35 minutes a day. Huh? That's what I'm doing. It's mostly based around hanging. So I can do lots of pull-ups. I can gymnastics rings that I access on my roof, and I do a lot of things with them. And I do a little bit of skipping, and I haven't lifted a single weight through this whole thing, not one. I go for the occasional 5K run, but I'm just not a big fan of running because it doesn't help with my dodgy back and hip position. I find I get some issues. So I wish I could have like a better story for you, but I'm literally just eating sensibly without eating. I mean, I eat a lot, and I still eat pizzas and burgers and all those kind of things, chocolates, whatever. But it's just about the fact that for 24 weeks, I've had an exercise program I actually like and I've stuck to. Like some days I'm not even breaking a sweat. Most days I never break a sweat, but my muscles are being stretched as well as kind of resisted against with these different things that I'm doing. That's it. Actually, it's amazing the results you can get purely with consistency. I think is the real underlying answer here.
Ben, you know my take on health. Like it should be the one non-negotiable. So when I saw your Instagram, it's actually I'm in the best shape I've been in since I was 18 years old. You know, when I was playing serious football then. So when I saw your Instagram, I was like, yes, here's somebody who I know. I need to be talking to Ben more because I want to keep taking it to the next level. So, dude, I love it. And I know you don't think so, but there are people looking and inspired to be healthy, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're not saying you want to go and baseball for $350 million. You're going, I want to be the best version of myself. So kudos to you, brother. Hey, Ben, let's live it. Because we're both professionals in the industry of presenting. Ben, talk to me about this weekend, Marcel Usman, right? What's going on there? Yeah. Give me your prediction. Talk me through it.
It's such a great story. This, as we all know from the last 18 months, Masvidal has been in many ways the best fighter in the last 18 months, purely because of the trajectory that he's built himself on. He was a journeyman kind of fighter. He fought everywhere, and then he went on this reality TV show, and then from there he just sort of like just knocking guys out. So I won't go too much into that because it's a long story. And if you do have time on YouTube, just go and look at videos. He's got this full-time content guy called Isaac, who basically makes these amazing videos, which is something I'm tapping into in a personal capacity as well nowadays around MMA. But Masvidal is a wonderful story. He's taken this fight in 6 days' notice. If you do understand the sport, these guys have at least like 2 months to practice for a fight and train and condition themselves and prepare themselves for the style and counter style that they'll need to fight a certain person. He basically was brought up fighting in the streets. He's an accomplished fighter. He's got great athleticism and he moves particularly well. Very unconventional guy. Difficult to take down, even if you are a wrestler. Difficult to knock out because of his footwork. So he's got good defense. He's got great striking power, and he can knock you out. Usman is the incumbent. He is the title holder. He's an absolute beast of a man, wrestling background from his college days, and he definitely has a fair amount of strike force. So no doubt, 3-1. I think you get 3-1 odds on Masvidal right now because he is the underdog. But now that they've been shipped over to Yas Island, like it almost reminds me of like the gladiator days where they'd pick them up at the ports and then they would take them to this godforsaken arena and they would fight on like no notice, whatever. They're fighting essentially. I think they're fighting like 6 a.m. there. Because of the whole pay-per-view US time. So the fight for us will be around 6, 7 in the morning on Sunday. And I've seen pictures of a hexagon on a beach, but it is so hot right there, right now. I know all the girls have to cut weight prior to this. Literally in Abu Dhabi, all you need to do is go for a 5K jog outside your hotel before weigh-in. You will make weight. I don't care where you've been. It is sappingly humid and hot. So as much as Usman is the favorite for a variety of reasons, that he's prepared for this, and he's just got a great all-around game. And I think he is quite a tough guy on top of all of that. I think he's dreadfully nerdy. I think he's like the Urkel of MMA. I don't like the guy at all. It's for zero personality. He whines a lot. So I personally want Masvidal to win for very obvious reasons. But I just think with the nature of how this has all happened, all been thrown together, Masvidal's a guy who thrives on all this chaos. He loves it. He plays up for it. And his fan base expects it as well. The dude's a natural mover. Like, if you just watch how this guy trains, everything about him, he has movement that is just amazing. So you can literally drop him anywhere. And much like a cat, the most majestic of all animals in the whole world, he has natural movement that can make him so versatile. So I still think Usman's going to have the edge for a variety of more conventional reasons. But the fact is, Masvidal's going to come out there knowing he doesn't have the stamina for a 5-round championship fight. So he's going to try and make something happen in this first couple. Whereas Usman knows, sure, I can fight him however right now. But if I go to championship rounds of 4 and 5, that's where I can make it happen. So he knows he can be defensive. It's like we saw with when Yoel Romero took on Israel Adesanya. That guy needed to go out and actually make the challenger role, but he didn't. He stood back, which is such an odd, like a bizarre thing to do. Whereas Adesanya was like, well, you're the challenger, dude. You must make the fight. Masvidal will bring the fight, no doubt about that. The big question is, will Usman take him on and try counter, or will he be a lot more percentage driven? And we saw it against Covington as well. His last title defense is that he knew he could outlast him. Simple as that. Better physical specimen. He knew he could match him on the floor. He could match him on the feet. So it's just like you could not get two more polar opposites, really. Personality, the whole deal. And Masvidal really dislikes it.
Awesome.
It's going to be amazing. Oh. So
no, yeah, I hope he does the flying knee again.
It could be over within 20 seconds, and if it is, I would say err on the side of Masvidal. But if you're in rounds 4 and 5, I think anybody who's even seen about 3 or 4 MMA fights will know Usman's got it.
So let's touch on some South Africa, and we both are passionate about getting, a positive message about South African sports out the way. Talk and one thing, but our guys, that's serious. By the way, fight for this tomorrow. Soldier Boy is on tomorrow. Mr. McClellan on tomorrow. Legend, of course. So look out for that, Ben, tomorrow as our. But UFC. What's the difference?
So, Sunshine Tour, PGA Tour. I think if you're a golfer, you can take that analogy. Curry Cup, European Champions Cup, PSL versus, the whole thing is all about resources, right? In the UFC, there are no weak competitors. There are no soft fights. There are no mismatches. It is so huge competitive. We've got about 120 fighters per division. This is something you probably won't realize because you see these fights happen, but you have no idea. There are so many people who are on the sidelines just waiting for a go. And then you get into the top 20, and you never really heard of those guys until you get to like the top 10. There's about 100 waiting in the wings there. So it is hugely, hugely competitive. The EFC, now this punches above its weight in so many different ways. And I've been lucky enough to be quite involved in the last sort of 6 months through Lucas Duplessis. I was starting out doing a campaign with him for one of his sponsors. And now the two of us are working together on content because I just believe in this guy so much. And much like Masvidal and his team have been so good at marketing themselves and getting themselves this trajectory towards the title. So Lucas is like, he's as good, if not better, than any of those guys out there. And I would say this without a shadow of doubt. From what I've seen in his fights, his ability, his commitment, and his sheer dedication to the sport and what he can do to another human being that he's focused on, and watching all these other fights, he could go into the UFC right now. He could take on a top 20 guy easy. And I think given a couple of fights just to kind of get the feeling of the biggest stage, he could be a title contender within the next 2 years, without a doubt. But this is the problem when you have everything local.
Because if he's going to be a champion, I want to be the guy that interviews too big, and then he's only going to go on like Joe Rogan. I want to be that guy.
Yeah, no, I'll organize that for you. But this is the problem, right? As much, and Gareth can maybe actually echo this tomorrow when you speak to him, as much as we have some amazing top talent in this country and on the African continent itself, it does drop away a little bit and does drop away quicker as well. And you see it in all sports. There's been amazing football teams in the world over history with like a few really great players, but then they just don't have the depth. I think African football's seen that to be an amazing, incredible natural talent, but get to the World Cup, 3 good players against 10 or 11 pretty solid German ones. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So I think the thing about the UFC, like any other sport, is it comes down to resources. If you have a lot more money, you have bigger price purses, you get more competitive things, you get athletes who can then dedicate more of their time to becoming professionals. Lucas is a full-time guy, and like I said, he'll take on anyone in the world, and I'll still back him. But you got other guys who are then still personal trainers in gyms, or they're fixing cars, or they're working in call centers, and those guys aren't going to be able to put themselves into a fight camp with the resources of having a wrestling coach, a sparring coach, a striking coach, all these different things. Because when you fight in the UFC and you're going against the big guys, these guys have huge entourages here. It's like Bryson DeChambeau, that example again. If your Sunshine Tour guy trying to put on 20 kilograms of muscle and work his way through this, he would need a team of physios, a biokineticist, trainers to get his body working well enough to incorporate the extra weight. So it's not from a lack of trying, it's not from a lack of desire. The African continent has some incredible fighters, and the EFC has done an incredible job to this point. They really, really have. Like I said, they punched above their weights incredibly, but it always comes down to the whole resource thing. A lot of these guys aren't as professional as they want to be, not because they haven't got the discipline. It's purely a numbers game, money game.
Money game. Listen, Ben, before we become Joe Rogan here, because making such great points, we could whatever. Look, Ben, I didn't think be this good. The thing is, I was kind of like, oh, should I have Ben on? He's not good at his job. He's not really a good talk. In the pressure moment, you've really delivered. So, the Polish people are very, very proud of you. I've just got a text.
I'm sure the Polish people are very, very proud of me. I don't really speak Polish. My dad's still pretty upset about that. But yeah, I think if I got 3 or 4 words from your last question there, we seem to be battling with some internet. But yeah, like Match Kit is something that has been in the works for quite a while. I have the most incredible business partners that are incredibly smart and driven, like I like to think I am. And what Match Kit has been is like just a whole bunch of ideas that we can finally put onto a platform that isn't just like professional. It's also hugely efficient. And because we care about sports stars, unlike a lot of people who maybe want to get a paycheck out of them or just want to get cheap publicity, is that we believe that when sports stars do better, sport does better. And once sport's in a better place, then we can do a lot more within it, which is exactly why maybe both of us get up in the morning, because we actually really care about sport. So quite simply, it is a mobile web builder. I think when the Springbok rugby team came back from the World Cup, I don't think a single one of them had their own website. That's not because websites aren't good things. It's just that they're a bit of a mission to set up, and the capital outlay in the beginning is quite difficult. Then you've got to register a URL, and a lot of people are squatting on all the .coms for the people. Like SiaKalisi.com, I think right now will cost Sia maybe like 180,000 Rand in that sort of ballpark. So what we're looking to do is like, okay, cool, you got your social media. You've got your guest appearances or blog posts, or like you're all scattered over the internet. No one really consolidates whatever you have. But now, as you see during this break, is that sports stars can't just be a guy that rocks up for practice and then has a match. You need to be so much more than that. And your revenue opportunities are drying up if you're not in the field. So we wanted to kind of enable sports stars and really empower them to set up a match kit profile, something you can do within 10 minutes easily. If you link it to your Instagram account, so rights-free imagery comes through, and everything is based on that. So we get to see what your audience is, who the people are really following you, who the sponsors are you're involved in, and exactly what you're about as a person through your achievements and what you actually do on social media. On top of that, you have the ability to showcase your best content through video. You can have a voice shout out, a video shout out. You even have your own store where you can sell merchandise, not merchandise that you own or physically have to ship somewhere. All you do is you give us a logo, and then we have all that stuff outsourced, and then you make money on that as well. And then, sports stars are hugely philanthropic as well. But again, how do they manage to do this, but do it efficiently while still being guys who are training and playing? So there's a foundation page where people can physically donate to their foundations, which they've set up, or the charity of choice. Some people just really feel passionate. Like I know with me, like I feel very passionate about dogs and cats. So I would always want to raise money for them. So whatever that may be, all of this is housed within one URL that you can then put onto whatever social media. And if you are ever looking for prospective sponsors, or you just want to work with people want to know more about you, they can go onto their Match Kit profile. So, for instance, co-founder and business partner of mine, Brian Urbana, his is matchkit.co.
Oh, hey, no big deal. Nice name drop there. Nice name drop. Brian Urbana, the guy who's got the most World Cup rugby tries, former Springbok World Cup champion, that guy.
Yeah, essentially the most decorated and successful modern rugby player of all time. Yeah. So if you go into his Match Kit profile, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm referencing him because his profile looks amazing right now. It's matchkit.co/Brian Urbana. So he'll forever own that URL. He'll forever own his profile. And that's kind of where we want to be in a nutshell. And I have kind of created my dream job in that I am basically the head of content and athlete affairs within matchkit.co. So every week on a Wednesday, the Matchkit cast goes out where I speak to one of the athletes. And then every Friday, there's a feature video that I've shot with or around the sports star itself. And that's my job to basically make sure everyone gets the most out of their Matchkit profile. It's essentially, it is the future in my mind for how sports people market themselves online, purely because it does away with the clutter. We're still saying keep your social media, keep working hard on that. But the Matchkit profile is like it's like the calling card for professionalism in many ways.
Awesome, Ben. And where do we find it? Where are you on social media? And just give us that website again. We'll put everything in the description of the video as well.
Thank you. So yeah, for Matchkit, if you are an athlete, or becoming an athlete, or know someone of the same kind of profile, matchkit.co/register, and then just matchkit.co, you'll get a nice little tutorial what to do there. And then on cross social media, we're at Your Matchkit. Nice and personalized. And then if you ever want to talk to me about getting into shape or what you're like as a person outside of studio time, at Follow the Bounce on Twitter and at The Bounce on Instagram.
Awesome. Hey, got adoring public and very, very proud of you. Very, very happy for you, Ben, because you're a genuinely good dude. When I came here, it was like, oh, okay, he's the new sports guy. And obviously there's that vibe of people saying, oh, you replacing Ben. No awkward with Ben. Like, I want to say it right now. Did everything you could to support. Hey, what do you need? Let me help you. Whenever I ask for something, if there's no question, it's done. He's a great, great guy. So, Ben, I want to support people like you in any way that I can. And you're a genuinely good dude. Before we let you go, Ben, can you take some... Thank you. Nobody's ever. You don't have to be nice to me. It's okay. I'm being honest. Yeah. Nobody's ever been nice to me, so don't worry about it. Hey Ben, can you take some questions before you go? You've been so gracious with your time.
Sure.
All right. Let's see the first one from Michelle Kirschenbaum. Ben has given everyone carrots with his home training plan. What does that mean?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. It has been great progress. And like I was saying, it's just about putting in 1 week after the other. It is so simple. I wish, again, I don't have a great story around this, but thank you. All right.
Zedo Rover says, what are your thoughts on the Costa Adesanya fight?
I know this is going to sound mean, but I feel Adesanya's come up at a time where a lot of people are going down. He's got a fight list, and I really admire him about that. He's taking on everybody. Romero, 40, Anderson Silva also obviously past his prime. He had 2 fights against Whitaker, gave him something. But Costa is an absolute animal. But tomorrow, ask Gareth about Costa. He fought Costa in the UFC. I would like to say it was maybe a learning experience for him. Basically, this guy looks like Ricky Martin, but he will attack you like a gorilla with his balls full of deep heat. He is going to be an absolute beast to try contain. I think he's the perfect test for Adesanya, which is well and long overdue. I'm going to back Costa for the win as well. I'll back Costa for the win.
All right. Well, is that a lock? Because if he loses all his money, Ben, it's coming back to you.
Well, don't bet on my insights. But no, I just think that, I just really think that Costa, he's a big, strong dude, and he's just a beast. He's vicious. What makes sport entertaining with all the options we have today is why is NFL popular? Just the money. I think what makes NFL popular is, again, it's like what makes America popular. They've dramatized it in certain ways. They've made everyone heroes out of it. You know, like the quarterbacks are like the leading male leads in movies. And again, it goes back to the fact that really strong people are running these franchises and actually really making a massive feel out of it. So everything is high stakes. And there's another thing that South African sport isn't anymore. There's too much stuff just happening for the sake of it happening. NFL's high stakes, right? They're not very long seasons. You want to get into those playoffs. You want to get in the Super Bowl. It's very condensed and it's very impactful.
Couldn't agree more. It's very simple. In sport, you create urgency, you create money around the situation. Heighten the urgency, you'll heighten the money around it. Because let's face it, NFL, simple model, 16 games, they all matter. You lose one game in the NFL, you could be looking at losing out on $80, $90 million for not making the playoffs. So We're talking about urgency. Everything matters. Secondly, parity. What they've got right is parity. Rugby and other sports are trying it, is a salary cap. I'll tell you where the Americans got it right. Is when they did the parity of salary caps, is essentially they made everybody give their players back, and then everybody has to bid on the players. Rugby in England is trying to do a salary cap thing with established clubs like Leicester and Saracens being so far ahead that the salary cap only crystallizes the sort of guys that are already in power. It makes no sense if you don't say to everybody, okay, everybody loses their players, and now you have to bid with everybody being on the same salary cap. So Leicester, you don't get the advantage of having been a dynasty for 10 years. You have to start again. It's the only way to get it right. Parity is everything that makes the NFL great. Urgency, parity, you have success.
Damn right.
What we got next, Dave? Jimmy the Sport says, what do you have against my main man, DJ Otzi?
Jimmy, it's very simple. I think what he did was he created a song that was really great for people who were drunk about 20 years ago. As a grown male, I can't shout at other males, do you want to be my girl? I mean, sorry, call me simplistic, but for me, words matter. And while watching people who are at the height of their physical abilities putting everything out on the pitch and me asking them if they're going to be my girl, sorry, you've lost me. It's right down there with Oleo.
Oh, Ben, you are the best, dude. Let me give you one more, and then I'm going to let you get out of here. Hey, Ben, appreciate you giving me this much time, dude. Senzo says... Yeah, no, you've been that. Like I said, I'm so surprised that you're so good at talking. I didn't see it coming. You blindsided me. Senzo says, look at the Super Bowl and the halftime. Look at the Super Bowl and the halftime show. The adverts. There you have it. It really says, it's really about the game itself. So he's saying it's an intersection of sport, realizing that it must intersect with pop culture, thus becoming a showpiece, a celebration, and entertainment. But above what you were saying, Ben, is just two teams competing and going home. It's really at the fulcrum of entertainment and sport.
Yeah, so I think we touched on it in depth earlier about saying, like, sporting stadiums, that they attract people that don't even care about sports in America and other developed places like this. Is that Super Bowl is still going to be there for the purists, right? A great example of this is Sia Sangweni, who is obviously on the Gareth Cliff show here at Cliff Central. He doesn't miss the Super Bowl. That guy doesn't know what a ball looks like. He's a muffin top. He's currently a muffin top. Well, he does actually. Yes, good pun there, because the funny thing is he's homosexual. Okay, sorry.
It's out there now, Ben.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Hey, not a kids show.
But the whole thing is that he understands like the sense of occasion around it, and I think that's what they've done so well. Not every single game is a pantomime like that. You still get a full regular season with full regular matches, but when it matters the most, that sport has the ability to attract everybody, and it's become a cultural thing now. I just don't see our sports here having that mindset, and sure as hell not having the ability to really rope it in. We've obviously tried to see it with these T20 kind of things, and like putting 20-somethings to dance every time a boundary happens, that's not really changing the game. There needs to be understanding that sport must offer something for everybody, but at the same time, it must still be strong enough to keep the purists interested and entertained by what they always loved about the game.
Ben Karpinski, you're amazing, bro. Gonna have to have you back, Thanks, Ben. Dude. So whenever you want to come back, let me know, bro, because you are awesome, dude.
I really appreciate it, Malillo, and also a little bit weirded out by the thought like you didn't know that I spoke. I was on the show for 5 years before you.
No, well, yeah, I'm aware of this. I just didn't I think maybe it's my sensitivity coming out. It's like, okay, he is quite good, actually. You just blindsided me with your quality and your brain. I just thought you were a meathead like me.
Maybe I was once upon a time, but thank you, though. I appreciate it.
No, that's all in jest. Ben, dude, you're awesome. And you're great for this country, and I'm a big fan. I don't need to say any more. Can't wait to have you back. Enjoy the fight. Maybe we'll get you back to give us a review of the UFC. So, Ben, look after yourself, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll always talk fighting with you anytime you want.
Absolutely. Hey, Ben, as they say in Warsaw, do widzenia.
I'm sure they do.
They do say that. They do that. Say, see you later in Polish. That's poor, Ben. That is poor. Ladies and gentlemen, Dynamo, as you can hear, Ben Karpinski, an honor to have him on. For today, this has been a different ball game. Tomorrow, Soldier Boy, look out for it. He'll punch you in the face. Cannot wait. Different ball game.